Tuesday night greetings. We are live on Rethink Your Health with Tanya. That's myself, Tanya Abreu, and friends. I hope everyone has had a less hectic week than I have. And I hope everyone is looking forward to spending 45 minutes or so with us to learn about, and I'm gonna sum it up in one word, to learn about vitality. Tonight's guest is an amazing man that I found on LinkedIn. His name is Mike Beverly, and in just a few moments, I'm going to let him introduce himself. He has a life story of being a business consultant, a wealth manager, and more recently, since his near brush with his own mortality, a wellness coach. Because all of those things, as we know, are really close together. You can't have money without your health, and you can't have it's one thing. It's an integrated human model for vitality. I call wealth nowadays WELLth, right? Because without that feeling of getting up in the morning and knowing that you're going to get through the day with positivity and strength, when that gets taken away from you in illness, nothing else matters. I know many of you followed the very sad demise of Steve Jobs and how some of his later posts in the weeks before he passed were just so tenderhearted and not at all in Steve Jobs' MO, right? It was about all of my billions can't save me now. The only thing that can save me is, being here in the moment, loving my family, leaving an impact on the world, and truly remembering what it was like to be well. Very sad. And, it's funny. Uh, I always like to share Steve Jobs' last words because his family was present and his wife and his children. And, they were all, I think we wait on death with everyone. Remember all the wisdom in that moment, all the sadness and all the joy in loving somebody and letting them go. And Steve Jobs was very out of breath, right? It was moving towards very low respiration and his heart stopping. And his family said, all of a sudden he was vital. I'm going to use that word again. All of a sudden he was vital. And he opened his eyes and he looked at his wife and he said, wow, wow, wow. That's it. Last words. 3 wows. And I think of that a lot because, man, I wish I had his money. Man, I wish I had his brain. Man, I wish I could make that kind of impact on the world that Apple and the iPhone and that digital technology has. But in that moment of his last words, we all can learn and we can all live like that. Wow, wow, wow. We need to find the brilliance in each new day, that even as our eyes close, whether in sleep or in death, we are able to acknowledge that kind of amazing moment. So, with that note, I'd like to bring on Mr. Mike Beverly and ask him to introduce himself, to tell us how he's come into this chapter of his life, what he did for his life as a career, and what he hopes to accomplish in the next chapter. Mike, welcome. I am so thrilled to have found you. Your smile is infectious. Tell us how you got here and where you want to go.
Well, thank you so much, Tanya. And I was listening to your introduction and those words, and I'd heard that story before. And thank you for reminding us all of that. And it also brought to mind a recent book I read called Everyday Legacy by Cody Shawan. And
Hold on, I'm going to put that up for our listeners.
yeah,
Everyday
Everyday Legacy by Cody Shawan. And Cody
How do
was
you
a
spell the
few.
last name? I'm sorry. I'm going to get that.
I think it's Shewan. I may have it wrong, but the book, you
Close
can't
enough.
miss it. Everyday Legacy. And he was a funeral director for 35 years. And any rate, in his book, he talks about when people would come in to make the final arrangements for their loved one, it was always a tear about, I wish I'd said this to mom, or I wish I'd visited dad one more time. And so it inspired me after reading the book and especially hearing the story about his grandmother and how she filled in for his father, who was absentee and left him and his mother when he was 3. It inspired me to start a book I've been writing mentally for 20 years. Now it's a third of the way done. And so you'll be able to see or buy my book and read it starting this fall, hardcore. And the subtitle is The Love and Trials of a Highly Dysfunctional Family. And
Wow.
it's about my life and the life that my mother and I lived by a very abusive, brutal father. So that'll be coming out in the fall. And but his book inspired me to write. But again, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share. And I do have a very diverse background. I was a band teacher for 20 plus years at several different schools, starting in Virginia and ended up in Central Florida. And then I started my own school fundraising business after leaving that career, and did very well. You know, it was an enjoyable aspect of my life. I think now looking back, Tanya, probably for the wrong reasons. And there's a lot of things that we all do in our lives, quote unquote, for the money. And I did very well, but I realized that it wasn't always about the money, because money doesn't buy happiness, and money certainly doesn't buy you health either. And in January of 2020, when I went for my annual stress test, I collapsed on the treadmill. And I literally thought I was having a heart attack on the treadmill. Sure enough, my widowmaker artery was 98% blocked. I
Oh,
ended up I ended up in the cath lab getting a stent, and they put me on what I now classify as an evil blood thinner that 2 months later caused an internal bleeding issue that in 3 days I lost 60% of my blood and almost died. And when they carried me out of my home and I saw the terror on my wife's face that night, I thought I would never return. I literally, in the EMT staff, you could tell they knew I was in serious trouble. So finally, 4 or 5 days later, they figured out where the internal bleeding was originating from. Got it stopped, and I came home, and I was so anemic that I couldn't function. I couldn't even get myself out of the bed to go to the bathroom. My wife would have to literally hold me, you know, and I'm 50, 60 pounds heavier than her. She would literally have to drag me once to the bathroom because I was that anemic and that, that weak.
yeah.
And so,
When your blood is unhealthy, when your blood lacks its core components, including iron, of course, life is just absolutely unfathomable. And lots of people are going through this, of course, with COVID and lingering COVID, so it's a very timely topic. A friend of mine, and she's on this podcast frequently, Dr. Alba, put some research in front of me that blew me away, and that is the lack of vitamin D in your bloodstream as a true comorbidity from death from COVID. And so you were very, very blessed to have survived that, and now you're thriving. Now, I know that I love your posts and I love your perception. And you can find Mike Beverly on LinkedIn. Send him a message. He has an amazing newsletter And he also serves as a mentor, a teacher, a coach to businesses, to senior executives, to corporate, but also to individuals who are seeking vitality, renewed health, and also who may need a little shot in the arm to understand how to make more money, how to get healthy and get wealthy. Now, let me ask you, Mike, to talk about what you generally do when someone comes to you saying, "Oh man, I just don't feel well. I'm losing money. I've lost my job. Can you help me, Mike?"
Well, that's an interesting statement, an interesting question, because that's what I hear day in and day out. And generally, this is interesting, Tanya. In the last 3 weeks, I have run into five, possibly six of my close acquaintances who just told me they got laid off. It's happening. It's beginning to happen more and more. And and
Especially if they make money, especially if they're high income earners. Those are
yes,
the people that are getting laid off.
yes, yes, yes. I mean, one is a pretty high up executive with a major corporation here in Central Florida where I live. So it's happening, and the 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 impending, I guess, recession. I never want to claim that, but the economy is slowing down. I think everybody's seeing it. You certainly see the gas prices and all that, but where I was on a Zoom today with a lady in Massachusetts who has been diagnosed with a major, I hadn't even heard of this autoimmune disease. And so, when you can share information with people to help them overcome that without prescription drugs, because I'm here to tell you, I know that the blood thinner that the cardiologist put me on after my stent in January 2020 caused my internal bleeding. And now that particular drug is being taken off the market because of all of the issues that people like me have encountered. So, as you read my content on LinkedIn, you will see, I mean, one of the newsletters I wrote maybe 6 months ago was about, isn't it time to fire your doctor and be your own healer? Because I truly believe that, because there is enough information through podcasts like yours, through other multiple. I mean, there's a plethora of podcasts like yours that educate people and inform people on not only alternatives to better health, but also avenues where to learn and to get that information.
I think this was on your LinkedIn where you said, "Do you just blindly trust everything your doctor says?" And the truth of the matter is, most people, even very intelligent people, do that. I was in the hospital for vertigo. It was horrible, and I'm diabetic, and so I had all this spiky blood pressure where I'd be my normal 120 over 80, and then it would go to 210 over 100, and then it would go back down within 20 minutes. And so I had every single test run on me without my permission. I'm just getting the bill for this stuff now. I didn't even, because I was, of course, very concerned. I didn't question anything. Fortunately, I have a few friends that are brilliant friends and brilliant wellness coaches. And they're saying, "Tanya, why do you need this? Just go ahead and get the MRI on your brain and get out of there. They're just going to keep you." And it was like I was so vulnerable being there by myself that I was willing to just, okay, that's a doctor. Oh my gosh, that's a neurologist. I'm going to listen to everything. Oh my gosh, I didn't do that when I had late stage cancer, and that's why I'm still here. So, this whole idea of this podcast to rethink your health doesn't mean to eschew or to deny all the great medicines and surgeries and medical care that's Western and modern, but it's also to trust your own instinct and to do, and thank goodness, right, for the World Wide Web, Thank God for all of this information, some not good, some wonderful, that's out there that really makes sense. So I'm going to go back to my main question for you, if you don't mind, Mike, and that is, what would be the very first bit of advice you would give to me, maybe emotionally, spiritually, behaviorally, when I came to you saying I can't go on, I just got laid off. I don't know how I'm going to feed myself or my family, and I'm just too tired. What would you say to me, Mike?
Right. I would say let's spend some time investigating some alternatives. And as you mentioned, that latest newsletter I wrote, and that came about because of a very close family member, my daughter, who we had no idea was having major thyroid issues until we spent a few days at the beach 2 weeks ago. And then she told her mom, and me about this thyroid issue and the medication that she was taking a very high dose for her thyroid. And and I asked her, have you Googled to find out what the side effects of this medication is? And she had not. She said, well, I'm going to listen to my doctor and I'm going to follow the doctor's order. And it was like she was mad at me for even suggesting, you know, even Googling to find out what the side effects were. Well, I did it. And I come to find out the number one problem or side effect with that medication is headache. Well, this girl has been prone to migraines her whole life. So now she's taking a high dosage of a medication, and that's just one of the side effects. There's multiple others. And to suggest that there might be another alternative for her is, it was just like, I crossed the line and don't even talk to me, Dad. You're out of line. And it was, I mean, it wasn't just a slight rejection. It was flat out like, tension, get out of my face. I don't want to hear this. And that was sad for our own family member, as close as we
Wow.
are, to get that reaction. But that's what I hear day in and day out. And thank God there's people like yourself. There's so many amazing people that are out there doing podcasts, that are on LinkedIn, Facebook, all the other social media platforms, that are offering people this education and the alternatives. But
So your primary, oh, an alternative is a word that you've used probably 10 times so far. So that is to kind of exercise your mind, do the research, talk to your doctor or your nurse, and push for the reasons why they're doing what they're doing. And then investigate alternatives so that you feel comfortable with the care you're getting, correct?
right,
Okay.
exactly,
All right.
exactly.
So now in your term, and I know we're going to talk about a product that you represent, and I want to tell my audience he did not want to talk about this product, but when I learned what it was, I also realized that I have a very good friend, Dr. Alba, who also believes in this product. And so between this and our work with antioxidants, as you might know, Mike, or not, I believe and retail and sell something called muscadine, right? Must Natural is premier muscadine grape. It's 100% food derived. It's the seed and the skin of the muscadine grape. And, I told this story. I was on a cruise just last week. It was a high stress cruise. The kid's great grandfather passed, but it was his last wish to spend time with his great grandchildren, and he was 88, and I don't know if he wanted to go on. So what a beautiful way to go. But that was stressful. And then, of all things, I forgot my little bottle of Must Natural, and I rely on that about 6 tabs a day, portioned throughout the day, so that it's my blood flow, right? So it's in my blood, and it is an antioxidant that kind of reduces pain, inflammation, stress. Forgot it. By the end of the second full day on the cruise, you know how you have those steps so you don't have to take those elevators? I couldn't do it. I mean, I started getting my old sciatica back. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And I got home and I was still in pain. And I went back, I upped my dose to 8 of these capsules. And within 2 days, I was out of knee and hip pain. And I realized the power of this oxidation principle in our body, right? So when people come to me and they have everything from emotional, financial, and physical problems, I say it all starts with functional nutrition, guys. It all starts with functional nutrition. And one of the cool things, people hate these direct marketing companies, MLMs, so to speak. But one of the cool things is when there's a reputable nutraceutical MLM, instead of going the route of spending millions and millions of dollars to get into stores to compete with brands that, who knows what they are, they really start this network of people who know and love and use them. So that's what Must Natural became to me. And I was going to mention it today because we talk about vitality. I know how this works. And I was really, really excited to hear that you recommend also an oxidizer, so to speak, called redox signaling molecules in a product that's called ASEA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So can you tell us a little bit about it? And was it something that you discovered during your anemia, or was it something that you discovered after, etc.?
No, it was, I was in a mastermind coaching program at the beginning of 2020 before I had my crisis. And I had to miss our weekly Zooms with the coaching program and the mastermind for 2 weeks, I guess. And then we had another one. And one of the gentlemen who was actually the sponsor of the mastermind, author Chris Widener, who spent the last 7 years of Jim Rohn's life with him as they traveled around the world doing motivational seminars together. And they actually wrote the last book that Jim Rohn ever wrote together, co-authored a book called The 12 Pillars. So Chris invited me to be in this mastermind, and I didn't want to miss another one. So my wife, literally, we had a wheelchair. I rolled myself into the office. She set me in the chair. And I was so weak, I couldn't even sit up. So she bungee corded me in the chair. And I told,
really?
Yes. I had a bungee cord around me so I could sit up instead of doing this. And so any rate, I got on the call, told my story about what had happened. And the gentleman from Fayetteville, North Carolina said, I want to send you a gift that saved my wife's life from a major brain aneurysm that she survived deep in her brain because she had been using a technology called redox signaling molecules. Well, of course, I was skeptical. I'd never heard of it. So he sent me some. I started using it. And literally within 2 weeks, I went from sleeping 24 hours a day, some days 26 hours, I remember sleeping one day, to getting up, having a normal life, being able to walk downstairs and function and not tell my wife I was so tired I couldn't even move. Well, 7 weeks after using these redox signaling molecules, I went in for follow-up blood work. The doctors go, what are you doing? And I go, what do you mean? What do you mean? They go, well, remember when you checked out of the hospital, we told you it would take 6 months up to possibly a year to get your iron and your hemoglobin levels back to normal. Well, I don't know what you're doing, but they're perfect. I checked out of the hospital, Tanya, at 7.1 hemoglobin, and in 7 weeks of drinking redox molecules, my hemoglobin was 14.7. And they couldn't believe it, neither could I. But I wasn't totally shocked because I felt amazing. I had so much energy. I was riding my bike 8 miles, in throughout the neighborhood, up and down hills, just, thinking, this is a miracle. This is a miracle. But at that point, I did the natural thing. And I have a sister-in-law who had migraine headaches 2 to 3 times a week for 25 years. And when I called her to tell her about this, she said, it won't work on me. I've tried everything. I've even done Botox 20 times. I said, You're kidding me. You've done Botox for headaches? I didn't know that was something that people did, but they do. And she said, I get temporary relief, but they keep coming back. In 30 days, she went from having 2 to 3 migraines per week to having 3 the whole month. In 60 days, no more migraines. And she's not had a migraine in over 2 years now. And
Wow.
and Tanya, she was in a Facebook group. I don't remember the name of it, but it had like 15,000 people in the group, migraine headache sufferers. She posted in there back in June or July of 2020. I finally found some relief from my migraines, and she put at Mike Beverly my phone number. I am getting calls from all over the world. First one was in the middle of the night one night from Western Australia, because they're like 17-hour time difference. Germany, I mean, on and on and on. And next thing I know, I've got a business that I never planned on, but it's the old saying, when God closes one door, he always opens another one. And it's like, boom, this was a big door wide open for me. And, I just feel so blessed to be able to share with everyone.
Now, can you see my screen?
I do.
Okay, so this is complicated, and I hope you have a way to discuss this. I pulled this off. I just found out about you and redox and ASEA. I found out about the product you're talking about when I had COVID. And when I have an autoimmune disease that kind of never popped up for years and years until right after COVID, my MS. And my good friend, Dr. Rodriguez, got in her car, or actually she took the train and came and served in my family as a caregiver and a really best friend. She brought ASEA. And I remember taking it and saying, oh, it just must be really good hydration, but I feel so much better. I had it in my refrigerator and I finished it. And I believe everything she tells me. She's like, wait, no, I do my own research too. But everything that she does bring into my life does turn out to have not just the science, but the impact on my health. So this is something that I pulled down in the moment. So it's not exactly clear. But can you do me a favor and walk me through this a little bit of how the redox signaling molecules work?
Well, when you understand where redox molecules are actually made, Tanya, it's so simple. Redox molecules are made during the Krebs cycle in the human body. And for those people who might not know about the Krebs cycle, it's where the mitochondria of our cell takes the food we eat and turns it into energy in a molecule called ATP. Well, during that energy process, it throws off 2 things, reductants and oxidants. And the short of that is redox. And this happens in every single human cell, and not just human cell, plants and animals as well. And the oxidants are what turn on our immune system. The reductants are the little detectives that goes in and finds where there's damaged cells and they repair them. If they're too badly damaged, they kill them off, or if they're mutated cells like cancer cells, they actually destroy those and replace them with healthy cells next door. And the signaling molecules are wonderful and very plentiful, and we have a lot of mitochondria when we're little. But after puberty, we start losing 1% every year or 10% a decade as we age. So when I had my crisis at 67 2 years ago, I didn't have much of my mitochondria capability or my redox signaling capability. So when I put these molecules back in my system to get my molecules balanced, that's why I had such an amazing recovery so quickly. And we see it over and over. You're speaking about autoimmune. I have a friend in Iowa, fibromyalgia, lupus, and Sjogren's. And they put her on such a heavy duty medication. She had to go in every other Friday for blood work because why? they were worried that this medication could badly damage her liver.
Wow.
So in 90 days of drinking 8 ounces a day of these molecules, no more medications, and she's never felt better.
And before I ever mention anything on this podcast, I do research. And while you've been talking, I've been multitasking, and there are countless studies on the ingestion of redox molecules, not on the ASEA product per se, because as we know, any supplement is never FDA approved, or, clinical trials are far too expensive to do on supplements. But it is really the research that you'll see on the NIH is very, very real. And it says that this stuff does really help us to increase mitochondrial energy. And when we increase the mitochondrial energy, we kind of age backwards. It's just some of the language that I read, which is phenomenal. And now, I don't know, Alba, if you're on, I'm trying to see all the different platforms, and there's 3 people here, whatever. But Alba was on earlier. Now I understand ASEA because I actually looked at what that is. All right. So besides, let's get back to your coaching, right? Mm-hmm. So what kinds of activities besides, eating well, taking good supplements, and including redox? I always recommend an amazing antioxidant, because we can never eat as many antioxidants as our bodies need as we age, to restore our youth, to restore our vitality, to restore our hairline, to make our nails strong and healthy. But so besides those functional nutrition and things that you do, and for people, what other kinds of things do you do? What discipline? What discipline?
Oh, me personally, or for my coaching clients?
For your coaching clients.
Well, I chat with them about their daily routines. We have a structure, where a very, very brilliant man that I did a lot of work with, named Jim Rohn, who I alluded to earlier, talked about the daily disciplines. And you have to have your daily disciplines. And they're, for me personally, I start off my day every morning with a gratitude journal. I have a gratitude journal, thanking, being grateful for my wife, my home, all the different things. So my coaching clients get to hear sometimes some strange things that they're not accustomed to, like a gratitude journal, or doing some meditation and visualization. I am reading for the 3rd time a book that you probably have read, Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain. Mm-hmm. Amazing book. And I talked to them about, have you set, number one, a goal for yourself personally, financially, health-wise? We talk about these things, goals. And I recommend a lot of good books. We even actually have a Facebook group that we've started called Personal Development Kings and Queens, or Queens and Kings, and every month we have a book of the month. So we talk about that, but lots of different things. But all in all, the business of ASEA and the recommendations and the referrals people can make with that is just a minor part of it. The big part is between here. Mm-hmm. The mindset, figuring out your goals, what you truly desire in life, and getting all that. Because I have some folks that I've talked to that are farmers in Nebraska. And one of the reasons I'm excited about the Nebraska folks that I coach is the University of Nebraska is the newest medical school to add redox biology to their medical school. They have a huge redox biology center. It's over 25 medical schools in the United States that are actually studying redox biology or redox biochemistry. Why? Because it's having such an amazing impact on people's personal health and well-being. And it's beginning to become mainstream. When the founders of our company figured out how to stabilize redox molecules outside of the human body. They went to two major medical schools, Stanford first. They called Harvard and said, this is what we've done. We've duplicated the redox signaling energy process outside the human body. Harvard Research Committee said, you're lying. It's impossible. You can't do that. Well, they said, we're willing to pay our way up there if you'll give us a hearing, because we've got the research, we've got the end product to show you. When they went to Harvard, it blew the minds of the research staff and research team at Harvard University. And then Harvard started really diving deep and saying, how did you do this? And that's when the scientists and the founders of the company said, we wanted to get your validation that what we've done is real, but that's where the conversation stops. And that's when they got multiple patents for this technology. And that was very brilliant as far as the business side of it. But any rate.
One of the things that I'm beginning to see a pattern, and I really wish that Dr. Alba was near a computer on this, is that healthy oxidation, whether it's through antioxidants that slow down the rusting of cells, or whether it's through this particular redox technology, it seems that healthy oxidation of the blood flow, of getting the right oxygenated blood, mitochondria that's producing the fresh molecules, that seems to be the key to youthful aging. And as we age, those are the things that are that diminish. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and it's we had a study. We had a global wellness conference in Las Vegas in April, and we had some major scientists there from Europe and the United States who said that this product, now that they've studied it, it's been on the market 13 years. Now that they've studied it more extensively, has proven to provide a healthy cellular homeostasis better than we've ever found. They've really had some profound research about it. So
I just love the sound of homeostasis, which means the cells are in balance, right?
Yes,
we know that that's how antioxidants work. Stress is a normal part of all of our lives, but many of us get to a point of chronic stress, and that chronic stress causes unhealthy chronic oxidation and the destruction of our cells, right? And the way to get through that, right, is through the antioxidation process. And it sounds like, and I don't want to generalize on redox, but it sounds like that this is contributing to that process, just like an antioxidant like Must Natural would.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And they're all contributory for that process, all contributory. And what you're doing and what I'm doing, it's all going to be give a synergistic effect to make your cells communicate better. So as you take any kind of supplementation, it will only work better if your systems and your gene pathways are getting a strong signal. And that's what this is about, amplifying signaling so that your cells can talk to each other better and they know how to do it. And it's just, I'm so fascinated. And you're speaking to a former professional musician, music teacher of 30 plus years, who now, I mean, I barely made it through biology class in college just so I could get my music degree. And I was speaking with a panel of 6 medical doctors the other day. And when I mentioned the Krebs cycle, one guy goes, "Don't even bring that up. I hated learning that in medical school."
Well, I love this because Dr. Rodriguez just sent a post for us, and I think it bears reading. Chronic stress depletes mitochondrial energy and increases oxidative stress. So we're talking, when we talked about products, okay, on this podcast tonight too. It seems to me that the Must Natural or the muscadine antioxidant, which has an ORAC score of anti-inflation. I wish anti-inflation, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory that's off the charts, much higher than everything from blueberries to acai to goji berries. But it seems to me that that really decreases oxidative stress. Whereas we talk about redox and this ASEA product, that it goes into the mitochondria and heals from there, and therefore preventing some of the oxidative stress that then can, that's really cool. So it's really a two punch approach to youthful healthy aging for sure. Thank you, Elba.
Yes, yes, exactly. And one of the other things, I guess it was within the last year, there was a double-blind, placebo-controlled study of our product versus a placebo, showing that the people using the ASEA molecules in a 30-day period boosted their glutathione level by over 800%.
And we know that glutathione is the mother of all antioxidants in the body,
Right,
right?
right.
It's the anti-stress, it's the anti-aging, it's the anti-depression. And that's the other thing I want to call out. Today I spent some time with regular GPs, general practitioner physicians, and we're working on some digital assets for their practices. And they were both, even though we have it, they asked for it. What about mental health? Never in medical school did we really explore, now that we know the link between viral infections that won't go away and mental health, the link between not being motivated and lack of nutrition. And these are GPs that aren't like integrative health practitioners. These are regular, one's an internist, one's a family practice physician. They just see it over and over again. And when you can treat for malnourishment, you can treat for dysfunction mentally and emotionally. That is probably the best thing, in my opinion, to come out from the COVID pandemic, is the link between our physical bodies, our cellular health, the homeostasis of our body, and the homeostasis of our mental health. And it's
exactly. And one of the other fascinating presentations at our global conference in Las Vegas was by a doctor in West Virginia who's been working with autistic children for 30 years. And she found this product and this technology 5 years ago and started availing her parents and these children to the molecules. And because this technology crosses the blood-brain barrier, we know that autism is a neurological and a gut issue, the combination of the two. She has had some amazing, like miraculous results with some of these autistic children.
And she's a physician?
She's a physician. Well, I think she's a therapist.
Okay.
I'll have to research to get her exact title, but I think she is she may actually be a doctor, though, Tanya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if people have autism in their children and their family, they can reach out to you on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn. I'm going to put LinkedIn Mike Beverly and get that up on the screen so that people can reach out for more information. Now, I am sorry, Mike. I know that you said to me, I don't just want to be a product person. I am truly somebody that helps people value life and value their own vitality. I'm going to ask you a question that I ask everybody, and that is, if you would fill in the blanks for me, it might give us some perspective on the way you approach coaching. And that is, I once thought that health was blank, but now I know that health is.
I once thought health was not all that important, but I now know that it is everything.
What did you think was more important than your health, Mike?
Drive to succeed, money, and my 20 years at doing that cost me a marriage, cost me my health, and and quite frankly, looking back, I was not a very happy person as well.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I mean, in our culture, um, and the pandemic started to change that, but then it's back. Busyness is a badge of honor. Not sleeping is something I slept one night. Well, I slept 2 hours last night. No, I slept only an hour. Hey, I had 15 minutes of sleep, and somehow that's something honorable. And, people don't realize, especially as we age, that without rest, there is no physical or mental restoration. And without that, all that's left to us is early death. So, if I were a health coach, which I guess in many ways I am, at least with this show, and I wish I would listen to my own advice sometime. And that is, there are two things to do. Three things actually. One is rest, one is movement, because sometimes people think, well, I am resting. I sit at my desk all day. Oh my gosh, right? Right? I've heard them say that. So, it's about that kind of restorative rest. It's about movement so that your blood flows, because we know that oxygenated blood helps our cells and our mitochondria, which I need to do more research on before I throw that word around, helps them infuse with better health. And then last thing is functional nutrition. And whether that's about drinking a redox molecule after you've done your research and have decided that it's worthwhile, or taking a grape seed supplement that literally has taken 80% of the pain out of my life on the daily, including headaches. I used to live on Advil and then ibuprofen, right? I had two different ones because I didn't want anything to make my stomach bleed. But of course, both of them are bad. But I don't need them anymore. It used to be when I ran out, even if it was 11 o'clock at night, I would go, because if I woke up in the morning with sciatica, I had to have something. But with functional nutrition, that's kind of not important. I've also just recently, we had Carly, the fairy gut mother, on the other day, Carly Jones.
She was great. She was
Carly
great.
Smith, I'm sorry. And she was amazing, right? And she made me realize the power of these biotics, um, uh, pre and probiotics in the gut. You mentioned them too, but I started taking a shake, and I've lost like 5 pounds, with doing nothing except cutting sugar back, because I know that I need to do that. But it's all interrelated. Once you get your gut and your cells healthy, everything else follows. Now, you mentioned gut health earlier, and I'd love for you to comment on it, because you said health is in the brain and gut. Was that it?
That's where autism originates, is in the brain and in the gut. Those two. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and I didn't know that until I heard the doctor's presentation in Las Vegas in April. And I don't know if she's a PhD or an MD, but I'll get that information for you.
Yeah, that would be it. Please send it to me. I'll share it on our. Now, I want everybody to know that on Facebook, you can find a daily log of, I think, really great ideas, research. People who know me get nauseated by all the research I post, but to me, that's the only way to make decisions. And maybe not all research is created equal, but I tend to believe in the National Institutes of Health and their research, which is always, placebo, double blinded, all that good technical stuff that Dr. Rodriguez always tells me about. It's there. And if I can find, 15 articles on something, or 100, like there is on muscadine, and there's, or grapeseed, thousands. And I just did a quick search of redox molecules, and there's dozens of research and even a clinical trial. So you got to do that research, guys. And I try on Facebook to put things up, on what I call, just what this is called, Rethink Your Health. And yes, let's do that. Let's not take anything for granted. And every day new research comes out, and it just keeps pointing more and more to cellular health and functional nutrition, right?
Yes, it certainly does. It certainly does. And it's interesting you mentioned functional medicine because I have a friend that I've met through the ASEA company who has a large medical practice in North Carolina. And over the last 2 years, he's transitioned into a concierge functional medical practice
Wow.
instead of a traditional medical practice.
Yeah.
And you know, it's real interesting. But regarding the National Institute of Health, another good friend of mine, before she ever agreed to be affiliated with this company, called a dear friend of hers she went to high school with, who had been with the NIH, the National Institute of Health, for 25 years. And Debbie explained this to her friend, and her friend said, if they've done what you're telling me they've done, Debbie, they're going to change healthcare as we know it.
Hmm.
And so that's why Debbie said, okay, if my friend who's been with this organization that long and is that smart, very smart PhD, she said, I'm in, I'm all in, I'm ready to go. So that's good that
Exciting.
you do your research and use that, Tanya, a
Yeah.
lot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And when people come to me for advice and they're saying, right now I don't, I had a little bit of, and I think once again it was from this lingering COVID, which, and I'm vaccinated, all that stuff. But this COVID just likes to stick around in your blood. And my A1C numbers were just ridiculous. They almost doubled in a 2-month period. And so I've been doing my research. And right now, my gosh, Ceylon cinnamon has taken my numbers down 10 to 30 points in the morning. Just by my muscadine increase, Ceylon cinnamon, and I haven't really seen the effect yet with the probiotics, but I'm getting normalized. And these are all foods. These are all foods. And I got to the cinnamon because somebody told me about it. It could have been Dr. Alba, but I did the research and it's crazy. Just do the research, cinnamon and diabetes, and you'll see trials. You'll see it's such a blessing. And why would we expect any different? Nature wants to keep us healthy, right?
Exactly.
All of nature strives for one thing. We learned this in biology in the 5th grade, and I never forgot it. All of nature strives to survive, right?
Right, right.
And it,
And speaking of that, and the value of podcasts like yours and others is I learned in the last 3 months about fresh squeezed lemon juice and cinnamon to lower blood pressure. Never heard that one before until I watched a very informative podcast. And it
wow.
works. It works.
And it does work. And I know that lemon has, and once again, I can't talk about like knowing it for sure, but I do know that the components of citrus and vitamin C help to regulate the swelling or of the arteries, inflammation, and decreasing that inflammation will also decrease your blood pressure. So yes, it's all believable. It's not going against the doctor's orders. One of the reasons, and I want to share this with my viewers as we finish up the show tonight, one of the reasons why physicians who almost instinctively know that things like chamomile tea brewed strong and added with some honey works on the exact same receptors as Valium and Xanax. Our grandmothers knew this. It's Egyptian ancient secret. But one of the reasons why doctors won't prescribe it in a traditional insurance litigious model is that, well, you can't control the dose. You really don't know how the person is brewing their tea. And so let's just give them Xanax because we know the body weight, we know what. And that's what we need to break out of. We need to be more involved, as you say, Mike. Take authentic control over the decisions of how we treat our discomforts, our stress, our strain, and start with diet and start with the cellular protection of our cells and renewal of our cells. Wow. Well, I can't believe we're almost done here. And I do, Mike, want to, first of all, ask viewers to If they want to learn more about anything we talked about, there's Mike Beverly. Again, I'll put his name up here on LinkedIn. But also, you can message me, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's on, I have a YouTube channel where all the podcasts are. Please reach out with any of your questions. Mike, I thank you. I wish you nothing but extraordinary vitality in many years that you have left. Next week on our show, it's really, really, really special. We will have an energy expert, healer, Reiki acupuncturist who will share her very, very modern practice with our viewers and talk about the efficacy of healing with energy and how it is now covered by insurance to have Reiki sessions. Nurses in hospitals can actually do Reiki with their patients. It's amazing, and we'll be talking about that next week. I hope you join us, Mike. And do you have any closing words to our listeners and viewers tonight?
No, just inform yourself. And I did a video last week and a post, and I said, Google, and support. That meant Google all the side effects of every uh, unnatural pharmaceutical that you're being suggested to take, and Google and find out what the alternatives are that are holistic and natural, and then find a support group that is going through what you're going through, and you'll see that there's a lot of people that have similar challenges, and they're willing to share and to support you in your drive for better health and vitality.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I'm going to leave with one more resource that we didn't go over earlier, that you can go to drugs.com and put all your medications in and see the side effects. And then you can see if all of your medications, if there's any potential negative, actually very dangerous interactions that are possible. So do rethink your health, take good care, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here for Rethink Your Health. Once again, good night, and thank you very much, Mike.
You're welcome.